What up, guys? It's me. For those who don't know, Disney does a Run Disney event a few times a year. These Run Disney events are essentially Disney running races, like 5K, a 10K, things like that run through the Disney property and, in turn, the Disney parks. These races go all the way up to a full marathon, and there are challenges that include multiple races. This past January, I ran the Goofy Challenge, which is 39.3 miles, which means I ran the half marathon and the full marathon. So in this video, I'm going to walk through what my experience with Marathon Weekend was, and how bad it was running 39.3 miles with essentially no training. So, as I basically just mentioned, I did basically nothing to prepare for this race. For 2024 Marathon Weekend, I did the half marathon and I was ready to train for it, and I raced it. And what I mean by saying raced it is I tried to do it with no stops and running it as fast as I could. It was fairly easy because that was the year it got rained out and it became a 7-mile race. But nonetheless, it was still racing it like I would, say, a cross-country race or the Turkey Trot 5K every year for Thanksgiving. I ran it as fast as I could. And I realized when I did that I was missing a whole lot. Because, and I'll talk about it a little bit later in the video, the Disney races are not just any other race. They are special races, and this year, going into it, we decided that we wanted to not race it and try and set a personal record or anything like that, but we wanted to actually enjoy the race. So we knew we were going to be running it slowly and not exerting a ton of effort. It is still a marathon and a half, so it was still effort, but we weren't exerting as much as we possibly could. So I meant to do training for this. I needed a lot more endurance than I had, but it was really cold out and I don't really enjoy running in the cold, so I decided to just run it with no training. Why not? And I've always been fit and athletic. I played 4 sports in high school, competed in a couple national championships for multiple sports. I was always athletic, and which helped me, but it was still quite a feat to do it with no preparation. So I want to talk a little bit about race logistics, because doing these races, especially back-to-back, like you have to do for the Goofy Challenge, and if you do the Dopey Challenge, which is all 4 races, you have to do it back-to-back-to-back-to-back, which is a lot. And this up here, it might be a little hard to read, but it is the transportation map, the graphics, the transportation graphic that they have in the resorts. Because Disney provides transportation to and from the race, which, another tip, take their transportation. Do not try and drive yourself. They close so many roads, it is so hard to get out of there. Take the Disney transportation that's provided. They provide it for a reason. But doing these back-to-back, and even doing one of these, is not for the weak. Basically, because the Disney races run through the park, they start crazy early in the morning. I do not know what time the 5 and 10K start. I assume they're 5 a.m. But the half marathon started at 5 a.m. and the full marathon started at 4:30 in the morning. Which, if that sounds bad enough, it gets worse. Even with the race starting at 5 a.m., you have to be in queue for the corrals, so they split everyone into corrals based off time. So corrals A and B are the fastest, with C through F being randomly assigned. You have to be in the queues for the corral at least 3:30, so for a 5 a.m. race, they close the corral at 4:45, I think. But to get up into the front of it, if you're racing it, and even just to avoid crazy times for the start and just walking through the start and the giant mob of people, you want to be there at 3:30 in the morning, and it's a half hour earlier for the marathon. And that means if you want to be there, you have to plan on catching the bus an hour earlier, so at 2:30, and waking up before then. I woke up at 2 a.m., for the marathon, or for the half marathon, and 1:30 in the morning for the full marathon. I averaged 4 hours of sleep during this weekend because as a college student that specifically avoids 8 a.m.s, stays up really late, and likes to sleep in really late, I'm not used to getting up. My body is not used to getting up. So it was really, really tough for me to get up and go do this. The upside is that after the race, you immediately get to come back, take a nice long shower, and pass out in your really comfy Disney hotel bed. But it's a lot. The race logistics is a lot. So my favorite things about the race, I wanted to cover this before I got into my thoughts about the marathon itself. Because despite what I'm about to say about the marathon, this was a really, really fun weekend. You're able to go behind the scenes in the parks, so the races take you through staff entrances. For Hollywood Studios, for the marathon, we came in behind Tower of Terror, where there's that little staff entrance. Last year, for the 2024 half marathon, they brought us in behind the Figment ride in Epcot, and we got to go around. And you get to see like a lot of the behind the scenes, which is really cool. And it's definitely unique. I mean, you get access to places that you never get access to going to Disney, not for a race. And there's a photo, wrong way, there, of the water stations, but it's on a staff-only road going between Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom. So it's pretty cool. Another thing I really, really enjoyed, and mostly just because I get to say I did it, is the rides are open during the marathon. So because you're running through the parks, once you get to Park Open, you can ride any of the rides. So we rode Expedition Everest, which it was cool to say I got to ride a roller coaster during the marathon. Never want to do that again. I regretted everything when I stood up off that ride to go continue on the race. I think my legs sort of rolled their eyes at me and debated just giving up right then and there, but there's still another 10 miles left. But it's a lot of fun to be able to like ride the rides, and especially if you can time it right, you can just walk right on. The guests at the Disney parks are amazing as well. They will let you go in front of them if you have a bib on. This happens all the time, and it is so much fun. And there are also so many photo opportunities for character spots along the way, and just photo pass opportunities in general. The green screening did a little bit too good of a job here, but up here I got a photo with the Boogeyman from Nightmare Before Christmas. It unfortunately green screened him out, which is a technical error I did not see until this far in. But that being said, it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of unique spots, and there were a lot of unique photo pass spots as well. I got a photo in from the castle, could get one in from the Epcot Ball, Tree of Life. All your typical photo pass spots you ran past, so it was really easy to get them. So now I'm going to talk about the marathon itself. So the half, and I'm only going to talk about the full marathon because the half marathon we had essentially the same strategy, it was just a lot longer for the full marathon. The strategy that we went into it with was, we are not going to run all of it. Our strategy was run the first mile or two all out. Run the first mile or two all out, get ourselves warmed up, because we had the one weekend that was cold in Florida, which was great, so it was like 35 degrees when we started, so we definitely had to like warm our bodies up, especially after like sitting in the cold in the queue. And for the half marathon, it was raining too, so this was even more important. we ran for the first mile or two, and then we did interval running for basically the whole 26.2 miles of the marathon, and we did it for a lot of the half marathon, but because the half marathon was a shorter distance, we tried to run most of it, or at least a decent chunk of it. I think we ran 5 out of the 13 miles, and then did some interval running to try it out for the marathon, and then we just walked the rest of the way because my hip was in pain, and I did not feel like pushing it the day before the marathon. But interval running, we did 1 minute running, 30-second walking. It was about a 10-11 minute mile. Some miles were more like 13 minutes if we had to take longer walks, or if we stopped for a character shot, or to ride a ride. But it is so much easier running distance on the interval running, and it is still a very valid way of running it. It just takes a lot less energy because you're walking and it's not constant, and it means your heart rate isn't as high either, which as someone with SVT was really, really nice for me. I really appreciated my heart rate not being super high, because then I didn't have an SVT episode right in the middle of the marathon, which would have been really, really bad. It felt really easy for the first half. Okay, I guess we're going with dimmer lighting now. It felt really easy for the first half, and then it got a lot harder when you get to the second half, and that is my thing. If you want to run a marathon, like full-on run it, more power to you. I don't know if I could ever build up the endurance for that, especially with some of my recurring injuries at this point. But that first half marathon felt so easy. That second half, oh my goodness. You get to about the mile 15 mark, and it's downhill from there. Because it's mile 15, even with interval running, that your legs start to feel it. And then by mile, 17, you just kind of want to curl up in a ball and die. Your body is so tired from exercising for probably 3 hours at that point. Especially if you're doing interval running, if not more than 3 hours. But you know you have 8 to 9 miles left. And parts of the course don't make it easier, because there's the dreaded parking lot mile, where it's just a mile zigzagging through Blizzard Beach's parking lot, which isn't ideal. But the last 10 miles specifically, and the last half marathon of a marathon, especially when you're doing a marathon and a half, that is a mental battle. The number of times I had to look at my watch that was tracking the distance and go, so many more miles left. 8 more miles left. And it became more and more tangible that we were actually going to finish it the closer we got, which sounds like a really obvious statement now that I say it out loud. But when you're on mile 15, your legs are sore, you're starting to feel the blisters on your feet. Most of your body is numb because you decided to be dumb and run walk in 35-degree weather with no sunshine, in shorts and a sleeveless shirt. At that point, it feels like it's never ending. It feels like you're never going to finish this. But you will. And I cannot imagine running the whole thing, let alone with no training. But interval running with no training made it seem possible. Because, I finished it, and I'm actually, funny enough, wearing the shirt from it. I did not plan that. But in my opinion, it is 100% worth it to go push yourself and do a Run Disney race, because the other thing is, I should have included it in here with a photo as well, they have spectator areas. I will tell you, Magic Kingdom is, spoiler alert, the first park that you hit. When you hit Magic Kingdom, you come in through the main entrance, and there's just a wall of spectators down Main Street cheering you on, and I have a video of it, and it just kind of hits you a little bit. Definitely made me a little bit, emotional, because I felt it of, this is an incredible thing I'm doing. Not many people can say they ran a marathon, let alone what kind of marathon it is or how you're running it. So the spectator areas, it's a really good atmosphere. All of the people involved are so caring, so kind, all those words. So it's 100% worth it, and I will probably do the exact same thing again next year. So if you guys have done Marathon Weekend before or done a Run Disney race, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like, subscribe, do all that, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.